Welcome to the Poke Report. This week we'll be taking a look at a variety of different sports as soccer and football season wind down. From men and women's basketball to wrestling, we have everything you need to get you ready for the winter sports season. I'm Greg Cimino. The OSU Cowboys had off last week, but there was still plenty of action going on in the Big 12. Top 10 teams TCU and Kansas State battled in a potential college football playoff spot. And Texas defeated West Virginia, knocking them out of the top 25. Jordan Bridges has an in-depth recap.
It's time for your Big 12 Conference recap. Let's start with the marquee matchup in the conference last week as number 7 Kansas State took a trip to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. Trayvon Boykin added to his Heisman campaign with 2 early touchdowns, including this 10-yard pass to David Porter. But Kansas State would not go away that easy. As QB Jake Waters hit the speedster Tyler Lockett for a 70-yard touchdown pass, but it was all Horned Frogs for the rest of the way, as Boykin added 2 more touchdowns in the 41-20 victory. Now let's head to Norman for number 12 Baylor versus number 15 Oklahoma. OU got off to a hot start that featured this pass from Trevor Knight to Deron Neal. Baylor got their act together fast though. Bryce Petty threw for 387 yards and 1 touchdown. However, the bulk of the work was done on the ground, including this 15-yard run by Shock Linwood. Baylor scored 45 unanswered points in a rout of OU, 48-14 big. Fresh off a heartbreaking 1-point loss to TCU, West Virginia traveled to Austin to take on an unranked Texas team. It was Texas all the way in this one. The Longhorns had a field day in the run game. Jonathan Gray ran for 101 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 10 carries, including this masterful 39-yard touchdown run. Longhorns win big, 33-16. Let's head to Lawrence, where Iowa State and Kansas had a combined record of 0-10 in the Big 12. But it would be Kansas getting their first conference win in a runaway victory in Lawrence. Michael Cummings had a good throwing day, including this beauty to Nigel King. The Jayhawks piled it on from there and cruised to a 34-14 victory. The Big 12 is still up for grabs going into the last part of the season. This has been your Big 12 Conference recap. For the Poke Report, I'm Jordan Bridges.
With 3 weeks left, Baylor, TCU, and Kansas State are all tied for first. It's going to be a tight finish for the Big 12 championship. The Cowboys will be taking on the Texas Longhorns tonight at Boone Pickens Stadium for senior night. With both teams looking for their 6th win in order to become bowl eligible, this very may well be the last meaningful game that the Cowboys play. Amanda Sebring shows us what's at stake for the Cowboys.
For 8 consecutive years, Oklahoma State has capped off its season with a bowl game. This year, the fate of postseason rides on just 1 win out of the remaining 3 games. Head coach Mike Gundy thinks the University of Texas will be the most physical opponent his team will face so far this season, and recognizes the challenges that come along with the Longhorn offense.
From an outsider looking in, their quarterback has gained some experience. They have good players. They're still big, strong, and fast and can run and make plays. They look very similar to what they have been over the past few years. I think that they're playing hard on defense and running to the ball. And I think they have good players.
However, the Cowboys are not the only team in need of just 1 more win. The Longhorns are sitting on a 5-5 record under first-year head coach Charlie Strong.
A big one this Saturday night, a senior night up there in Stillwater, and we know this, we're going to get their best, and we had to be at our best.
The last 4 OSU-UT matchups have ping-ponged, giving neither team a winning record advantage. Plus, big changes in both programs have made this a rebuilding season on both sides.
Working through a new quarterback and a young offensive line and a little bit of experience, and it just takes a little bit longer than what most people would want.
Last year, the Cowboys beat the Longhorns in Austin, but tonight, they're searching for more than just a win. For the Poke Report, I'm Amanda Sebring.
Joining us now is Ocala football beat reporter Anise McEwen. She's been following the team all season and has a more in-depth look on the Cowboys. So Anise, we have both teams coming in with 5 wins, Texas and the OSU. Both teams looking to be bowl eligible. What do you expect to see from both teams in tonight's matchup?
Well, tonight's game is going to be very emotionally driven for both teams. Obviously, like you said, it's senior night. The bowl eligibility is on the line. And added to that, Joe Wickline, the offensive coordinator for Texas, who used to coach the O-line here, There's some legal troubles going on between OSU and him, so there's that added on top of it. It's a very emotional game, and I think it's going to be one of the closer matchups. Originally, preseason, they thought Texas would be, pretty well dominated by OSU, but since it's kind of been on a steady, down spiral, they're really looking that maybe Texas can come and beat OSU at home.
A Texas team that has won 2 in a row, including that upset last week against West Virginia. So the offense seems to have been on the decline for the Cowboys these last few games. Having the bye week, what do you think Mike Yurcich and Gundy try to do to improve the offense, especially the play of Dax Garman?
Well, I think Dax Garman, as soon as he gets comfortable and he gets in the rhythm, he can really make something work. But, as we've seen with these past few games, it's not really happening. He's making mental errors, he's throwing interceptions, and that offensive line is not really giving him a whole lot of time to do much. So if he gets on point, the offensive line, I think, can follow suit, and I think the offense as a whole can really follow him. But he's really that key. If he can't get into rhythm and he can't set the tone for that offense, they're going to have trouble scoring touchdowns like they have these past few games.
Right. And we would like to see maybe a little bit more Tyreek Hill. He had a great game against Kansas State. How can they get him more involved? And do you expect them to get him more involved?
Well, I think that's been a gripe of most of the fans and some of these, media people, is that they're not using Tyreek as much as they should. They've used him a little bit on those, head down and just use his speed downfield. But I think you can utilize him in a lot of different ways, not just around the corner, straight up the middle. If they can get their O-line to block, he's got plenty of room. And when he's in open space, like we've seen, he's gone and he's real hard to catch. So, he's more than just a distraction tool for the offense, for opposing defenses. He really, once he gets the ball in his hand, and now that I think he's used to the Division I level, I think he can really do better.
Okay, so obviously not the season that the Cowboys had anticipated when entering the season this year. So what do you look for them to moving forward, since there's only 3 games left, and if they don't win today, most likely not getting a bowl?
Exactly. That's right, Greg. If they don't win this, they have to face Baylor and Oklahoma away, which are going to be very tough games. Baylor and Oklahoma have done very well this season. So if they don't win today, I think it's going to be very hard for them to do much else than really utilize the last couple games as some learning times for the younger players. I think with the year under the belt for a lot of these freshmen, they have a lot to look forward to next season. So if they can get this under the belt and get this going, I think, they could still get something out of this season, if not a bowl.
Okay, well, a very young team indeed for the Cowboys as they take on Texas in the final home game at Boone Pickens Stadium. Thanks, Denise, for joining us. We're just getting started here on the Poke Report. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at how the Cowgirls' early exit in the Big 12 tournament affected their bid for postseason play, as well as what the wrestling team hopes to accomplish this season against tougher competition. Welcome back to the Poke Report. I'm Greg Cimino. The Cowgirls heading into the Big 12 tournament had won 4 of their last 5 games and were favored to make a deep run. An unexpected loss to Baylor sent the team home early and jeopardized the Cowgirls' bid for an NCAA selection. Jacob Watkins was with the Cowgirls as they awaited their fate.
With the Cowgirls fighting to make the NCAA tournament, the team had plenty of work to do at the Big 12 tournament this past week. The Cowgirls traveled to Kansas City as the number 2 seed, facing off against the 7th-seeded Baylor Bears. OSU keeper Rosa Medina held the Bears off the scoreboard early with 2 saves. Medina had 4 saves on the day, but it was not enough to stop the Bears' offense. Baylor got on the board for the only goal of the game in the 37th minute when Jordan Hattler scored her first career goal. The Cowgirls attempted to strike back in the second half when Anna Beffer's shot attempt hit off the top of the crossbar. Although the Cowgirls held a 23-11 advantage on shots, OSU was unable to convert, leading to a first-round exit in the Big 12 tournament. Even with the loss, the Cowgirls still waited anxiously on Monday to find out if they made the NCAA tournament. As the selection committee announced the bracket, the moment every Cowgirl had been waiting on came. OSU will now turn its focus to the Arizona Wildcats, a team the Cowgirls lost to 3-1 early in the year while depleted with injuries. OSU head coach Colin Carmichael likes the matchup between the two teams more this time around.
Yeah, I mean, our lineup, when we play them on Friday, will be very different. It'll be a different formation, I would guess, and it'll certainly be different personnel. So we've changed a lot since then, and even as limited as we were that day, we took it right down to the wire with them. It was 1-0 us with 8 minutes left. So
The Wildcats are 11-7-2 this season, but have only won one game out of their past 7.
The Cowgirls hosted the Arizona Wildcats yesterday, but the results came in too late to show you the highlights. We'll have full coverage of the first round matchup on next week's episode. As the cold weather settles in, several teams are heading indoors. Connor Tomko joins us now to tell us what teams fans can expect a good season from. Connor?
One team that's always expected to do well is the OSU wrestling squad, but a team's tough schedule this season is going to be challenging and will require a lot of hard work from every team member.
The Oklahoma State wrestling team opens its season on Sunday when they take on Northeastern Oklahoma in Miami. The Cowboys look to improve off a strong end of the season where they claimed 3rd place at the NCAA National Championships, including 2 individual champions. While Chris Perry departs, Alex Dieringer returns to defend his title, but at 165 pounds this year. The Cowboys will also return All-Americans Josh Kindig and Austin Martson, who is another talented but young wrestling team. Head coach John Smith hopes his Cowboys grow up quickly.
What ifs in this lineup? I mean, a lot of question marks, you know. But hopefully we can kind of stamp out those question marks right now and get ourselves well prepared as we start the season.
Not only will the Cowboys be coping with a young team, they will also have to battle through a tough schedule. Along with facing Big 12 rivals Iowa State and Oklahoma, they will have to grapple with perennial Big 10 and national powers Iowa, Minnesota, and defending national champion Penn State, all of which are currently ranked in the top 5 by the USA Today. Smith welcomes the challenge of wrestling the best teams in the nation on a yearly basis.
Yeah, we got to get a lot better right now, and I'm glad that some of those Penn State and Minnesota and Iowa. I'm glad that we were able to add that Penn State and another Big Ten team to our schedule, because once you get them on your schedule, there's a good chance we'll keep those guys on the schedule, and those are the people we need to be wrestling.
Oklahoma State begins the season ranked number 9 by the USA Today as they start their quest for a 35th national title. They are also the highest-ranked Big 12 team, which will make them favorites in capturing their 13th conference title.
The Cowboys travel to Miami tomorrow to take on Northeastern Oklahoma and South Dakota State. Coach Smith hopes a tough schedule, but it will be the experience that the younger wrestlers need to improve. Back to you, Greg.
We're going to take a quick break, but coming up next on the Poke Report, we'll take a look at an important cog to the OSU men's basketball team that barely played last year, but will be needed as a leader on the court this season. Also, the Oklahoma State Cowgirls basketball team returns with the bulk of their roster after making the Sweet 16 last year. We'll give you a preview of the 2014-2015 squad. Last year's men's basketball team had high aspirations, with future pros Markel Brown and Marcus Smart returning. But the Cowboys' season took a turn when starting center Mike Cobbins went down with a torn Achilles. Greg Benson caught up with Cobbins as he prepares to return to the court.
With the regular season just around the corner, the men's basketball team is eager to get going. One player, though, who is more eager than anyone is center Michael Cobbins. Cobbins, a senior, missed almost all of last season after suffering a ruptured left Achilles in a game against Robert Morris.
I kept telling Marcus, I was like, it's something in my shoe, it's something in my shoe. He's like, dude, it's nothing in your shoe. And I just felt like I was walking like on an incline the whole way off the court. But once we got in the back room, I knew once they told me on the bench that we were going to go back to the training room that something wasn't right.
Cobbins played in 15 games before he went down with the injury and missed all of Big 12 play. The Cowboys without Cobbins went 8-10 in conference games and didn't look the same without him. For Cobbins, it was a long and tough journey back from the injury, and he looks to make his comeback in the 4th game of this season.
It was challenging just to be able to sit on the side and watch my teammates go through everything that they went through. But, my teammates, they encouraged me, my coaches, my family, and most importantly, they were always there for me, helping me through the injury and helping me out with whatever I needed. Just real good friends that were close by. Everyone was supportive of me, and it kind of just helped me drag along.
On a team with several new faces and inexperience, Cobbins hopes to stay injury-free and take on a big leadership role this season. Cobbins is helping the young guys to understand what the coaches want out of them, as well as work on his own game. Head coach Travis Ford is happy to have Cobbins back in the lineup for this season.
Michael Cobbins brings such a presence, a leadership, understanding of how we want things done, and understanding of how to play the game, and he's looked tremendous.
Cobbins plays his first game back with the Cowboys on November 21st against Milwaukee. For the Poke Report, I'm Greg Benson.
Cobbins is one of 2 starting seniors on a young Cowboy team that will rely on his leadership as they welcome in a new cast of players. You can catch Cobbins and the rest of the Cowboys tomorrow as they take on Prairie View A&M at Gallagher-Iba Arena at 2 p.m. There will be some big shoes to fill on the Cowgirl basketball team this year after losing Tiffany Baez to the WNBA. Jordan Bridges has a preview of what players we can expect to fill her role.
The 2014 version of the Oklahoma State Cowgirl basketball team won't look that different from the one they put on the court last season. However, head coach Jim Littell will have to replace his star player. Of course, I mean Tiffany Baez. Baez averaged 13.9 points last season and had 211 assists, leading the team in both categories. But she's gone now, and the Cowgirls have a new leader at point guard. Roshonda Rowe Johnson will take over the role, and Coach Littell thinks she's up to the task.
Rowe's a good point guard. She had big games last year at Purdue. She had 15 in an overtime loss to Baylor. She's got a good skill set to her.
Johnson will have plenty of help this season, though, with senior Liz Donahoe and junior Brittany Martin. They are possibly the best players on the roster, and they are definitely the most experienced. They started every game last season. Donahoe was a sniper from the three-point line. She made 57 threes last season and averaged 11 points a game. Brittany Martin is a jack of all trades. Martin averaged 8.7 rebounds, 11.8 points, and was second on the team last year in minutes. Maybe the most impressive part of this Cowgirl roster is their improvement in the post. With the return of 6'3" center LaShawn Shaq Jones, who played key minutes in all 34 games last season, and promising freshman Kaylee Jensen from Nebraska, the Cowgirls are going to be a force to be reckoned with down low. Not to mention sophomore Caitlin Locker, who is going to be out for the first part of the season, but Coach Littell hopes to have her back sometime in the second semester. One person that is very excited about the bigs is Brittany Martin.
It's good that we have help to so 3 of us can be on the boards, or 4 of us instead of 2, or just me or just Liz. So I'm excited that we have a lot of people crashing the boards this year instead of, just me and her.
As for the 5th person that will be getting those rebounds, that's still up for grabs. There are a few candidates for the 5th starting spot. Coach Littell has to like his options, though. With the amount of experience he has coming back, there's a lot of flexibility to work with, and that's going to be huge come time for Big 12 play.
There's a lot of different candidates, and it gives us options of playing different ways. If we want to go a small lineup and press, if we want to go a 4-guard lineup, or if we want to go with a big lineup.
Of course, with the more experienced team comes higher expectations, and Jim Littell knows that and is embracing it. Littell has views of getting back to the NCAA tournament.
3 people that started every game, and then 2 other people that got a lot of playing experience in the Big 12 and in the NCAA tournament. Your optimism needs to be high, your standard and your expectations need to be high, and that's never going to change within this program.
This Cowgirl team should impress. If they can stay healthy, look for an exciting season. For the Poke Report, I'm Jordan Bridges.
The Cowgirls are ranked 21st in the AP preseason poll and are expected to finish 4th in the Big 12, with powerhouses Baylor and Texas coming in the top 10 and West Virginia coming in at 17. The Cowgirls will have an uphill battle in conference play. You can check out the Cowgirls tomorrow at Gallagher-Iba Arena as they take on Texas Southern at 6 p.m. That's all we have for you on this week's edition of the Poke Report, but tune in next week as we have full coverage of the Cowgirls soccer team's first-round NCAA matchup and a complete breakdown of the Texas OSU game. I'm Greg Cimino. Stay tuned to O-State TV for Countdown to Kickoff.